looking for some of my colleagues. I see one walking through the room. Maybe he'll join us up on the dais.
I can throw some at him. Hit him with the man.
Good evening, everyone. The regular meeting of the Kansas City Public Schools Board of Directors of November 6, 2019 is called to order. The secretary will please call the roll.
Ms. Manser,
Here.
Mr. Abarca,
Present.
Ms. Cortez,
Here.
Mr. Hogan,
Here.
Dr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Wasserstrom,
Here.
Ms. Wolfsey.
Here.
Thank you. I want to ask my colleagues to please look at the agenda for this evening. Are there any objections or adjustments to the agenda at this time? Seeing none, the secretary will please call the
I
roll.
need to have a motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry, it would now be in order to receive a motion.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. This will be a roll call vote. The secretary will call the roll.
Ms. Manser,
Yes.
Mr. Abarca,
Aye.
Ms. Cortez, Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Dr. Jones, Mr. Wasserstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Wolfsey.
Yes.
Wonderful. There's a majority in favor, and the agenda is approved. The next item of business this evening is the superintendent's report. The chair recognizes Dr. Mark Bedell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, I think our first item here is something that's very important. And if we can move, go ahead and move that forward if possible. All right. Yeah, go back. Okay. So what we want to do at this time is bring up Dr. Woodley. We actually have some really good news that we want to share with our board and our community around our grant that we just received. And I will let Dr. Woodley break down the acronym because honestly, I just forgot what the acronym is. But this is a Victims of Crime Act program. There it is. So this is a nearly $2.6 million grant, and we wanted to, I really wanted to commend the Dr. Woodley, Dr. Cadoba, Barbara Washington, and the individuals that worked with them. I believe Molly Tickner, when she was here, helped with some of this too. Other faculty and staff. This is a huge, huge grant, and it's going to accomplish a lot. And I wanted to just give you all just a quick overview of what this grant will do for our school system.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bedell. We are very excited. We received this wonderful treat, not a trick, but a treat on Halloween with the announcement that we received this grant. So we've been looking every day trying to see if we got notification. So we're so excited. And so what this grant does, it allows us to really focus on implementing our trauma-informed school system model with fidelity to really make sure that we're able to provide training and education to improve the physical health, mental health, and the well-being of our students. So the granting period, it starts immediately. So we can start implementing the grant immediately, and it goes into June 30th, 2022. So it's a 3-year grant with opportunities for us to renew the grant at the end of the cycle for longer periods of time. But with this grant, we'll be able to expand our trauma-sensitive clinicians to be able to provide more clinicians to support schools. We'll be able to expand our mentoring program by providing a data analyst to really look at the data so we can make informed decisions about what students, basically kind of developing a risk analysis to kind of see what students need additional support so we can be targeted in our support for students, and then a mentoring coordinator to kind of really make sure that the mentoring programs are going effectively in our buildings. And we'll be able to really look at focusing on expanding our district-wide implementation of our restorative justice, restorative practices model, with the beginning of our program really looking at our comprehensive schools, our schools that we know that need the most support, and our 2 alternative schools. So we're very excited about this opportunity, and we look forward to start implementing our program immediately. Okay.
Thank you. That is fantastic. Dr. Bedell, may I ask very quickly, will we be putting out any kind of public announcement about the receipt of this particular grant, given its size?
Yes, we will. There will be a press release that will go out on this, and I'm not certain if we're sending it out tomorrow or Monday, but I believe Monday. I think there's just a few other items that we're still working through with the grantor, and we should be ready to put this out on Monday. This, I'm not doing this one yet, so it looks like we went ahead a little bit. I want to, at this point, the next item is, make sure I'm seeing Kelly Washer. So Kelly is here, and I want to introduce Kelly to the public. Our board had an opportunity to vote on my recommendation to hire Kelly Washer as the Chief Marketing and Communication Officer. She comes to us as a school public relations and communications professional for almost 15 years, having worked in the Center Public School District and most recently out in Lee Summit. She also comes with us with sales and corporate communications experience as a senior associate at Ernst & Young, LLP. Right now, Ms. Washer currently serves as the Missouri School Public Relations President and is presiding over a 2-year term. She's conducted multiple keynote speeches, both at state and national level conferences. She's also a member of the Missouri-Kansas Education Policy Fellowship Program and has her professional accreditation, APR accreditation, which is accredited in public relations. She's a graduate of the University of Kansas School of Journalism with an emphasis in strategic communications. She's also written 2 books about school communications, Parents and Schools Together, and Having an Impact on Learning. And, I'm just excited because we have, in this school district, been able to really attract some top-notch people. And in doing that, we also have to realize that attracting top-notch people mean that you also will lose top-notch people. And we see that happening even with people who are being sought after as superintendents, and it's something that we ought to be proud of, that we are able to bring in this kind of talent. So, Kelly, I want to have you just come up real quick and introduce yourself, and welcome to the team. Yeah, happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I had a chance to visit with some folks before the meeting started and heard about, we got Lincoln Prep, we got East Soccer, we got some cross-country runners, we've got, I know Selena as a volunteer over here, and we got some students who are visiting. So Citizens Advisory Committee, DeMonte, is that correct? Yeah, so we've got some great people that I've already gotten a chance to meet, and looking forward to doing the work of students and families for KCPS. So thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to getting to work and starting on Monday, and let's get to work.
All right,
All right,
thank you.
all right.
All right. All right, now we're ready for the next item, Board of Equalization update, and Ms. Linda Quinley will provide that update, and then we will allow for you to slide out.
Good evening. Chair Manzer asked for 1 slide with 3 bullets. I have 2 slides with 6 bullets, but did the best I could. Just an update on the Board of Equalization process and where we are in Jackson County at this point. I wanted to start because I think it's so important for everyone to remember what the actual mission of the BOE is, and it is to fully and fairly equalize value of real and personal properties in an unbiased public manner. As of today, the BOE reports 17,924 appeals remaining to be heard. 13,552 of those are residences. So over 3,000 have been resolved in that manner during the month of October. Those 3,000 and some informal reviews and other things resulted in a $33 million increase in assessed valuation, as previously shared with Kansas City Public Schools. They have more to do, so we expect that number to increase, of course. The important thing to know is that that's resulted already in a decrease of at least $1.3 million of revenues for us this year. Blue Springs and Center School Districts have filed a request for them to place a cap of assessed valuation increase in their school districts, and that's currently under review. Legal Aid has worked with a group of our property owners and requested for a specific area inside our boundaries to have a flat cap increase of 6% on residential properties. It's not been taken up by the BOE at this point, but we will continue to monitor, of course. And the biggest challenge for us, and you know this, board, because we talk so often about this, is that with this flux in the process this year and the amount of appeals, it's going to be very difficult for us to determine what this year's revenues are going to be until probably April of this year. So we'll just stay tuned and keep you apprised.
All right, so we are ready to move. I'm sorry. I had an opportunity to attend this conference with several peers, Dr. Shepard, Mr. Jackson, and Ryan, one of our coordinators, in addition to a couple of our board of directors, Mr. Hogan and Mr. Abarca. And I can tell you those two they'll have an opportunity to share with you what their experience was. But the Council for Great City Schools is a conference that is comprised of some of the largest urban school districts across the country. And we have an opportunity to go and share best practices and learn from each other. And it's designed that you would have administrators, executive level administrators from school districts, and then board of directors from around the country. And we had an opportunity, I had an opportunity to facilitate a session with Buffalo Public Schools, Jefferson County Public Schools, which is there in Louisville, Kentucky, and Memphis Public School System, Shelby County. And probably one of the best sessions that I had an opportunity to participate in, because the focus was primarily on figuring out how do we do a better job of educating our young males of color. And the things that we learned about around some of the focus that some of the states are having. New York intentionally funds the My Brother's Keeper initiative, and it is a state initiative. And then you have the Du Bois Center over in Jefferson County, which is a school that has a curriculum solely focused to educate young men of color and to get them to really truly understand their history. And in the movement in Memphis around giving our young men of color voice and getting them to go out and advocate and speak with legislators. I mean, it was just phenomenal. It was a packed session, and it was a lot that I think we can really look at potentially replicating some of those type of programs in how we educate some of our young men of color. And in the other session, I have to give credit to Dr. Shepard, Mr. Jackson here, and Ryan. They actually presented in a session, and they went through our instructional framework, gave the roadmap to everything that we've been doing over the past 3 years, and it was powerful. It made me proud to know that we're doing some good work that other districts can take and replicate. But what's more important is that we're actually seeing this framework that we put in place pay off. I think our academic progress and the growth that we're making in this school district is definitely something to be proud of. And hopefully as the state release the final science scores, I'll be able to provide everybody with an update. Probably won't happen until that December meeting, because I think at this point, we may not get the information until November 23rd or somewhere in that range. So the following board meeting, we'll be prepared to update the community as to where we fell as far as our status. So, board members?
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. I'll talk about one of the sessions that I attended, because it sort of struck me from a professional development perspective in terms of the emphasis that Dr. Bedell and team put on their team here as part of the district, and how I think we need to have an equal amount of emphasis on professional development as a board. I think we're a fairly high-functioning board, but there's an opportunity for us to go to another level. But I also want to talk a little bit about a couple of sort of personal things. So one, I've told people that I got this education bug, right? Like, I've caught it. And I'm not even really sure what to do with it yet, but I caught it. And it's been really, really powerful and sort of life-changing for me. So I'm a little envious for the work that you guys get to do every day, even though it's super difficult work. Everyone recognizes how important it is, but to go in every single day and know that you're having an impact on a kid's life is incredible. So again, thank you for doing that every single day. But another thing that's really personal for me is, so we all know that we have this incredible gym in Dr. Bedell, right? You know it. If you've interacted with him, you've seen the results, his leadership, you know you've got this incredible person that is leading this district forward. But I don't know that I fully appreciated it until I saw him on a national stage. And it's like walking around with a celebrity a little bit. I mean, it really is. He's getting stopped constantly, and it's genuine, right? People have a tremendous amount of respect across this country for Dr. Bedell and his leadership. They genuinely like him, and they're looking to him for guidance in their own roles in education. And so thank you for being this humble, incredible person that's one of the 50 most powerful people in Kansas City, apparently. Not sure I agree with that part, but no, thank you for just being a genuine, humble leader who's really here for the right reasons and pouring your heart and your mind into these kids. So I attended a session called Accelerating Board Capacity, put on by the Harvard Business School, and it's an institute that they developed a year or two ago, and it's not designed to be duplicative to the state level training that we get as board members, right? It's really supposed to be additive. And it sold out really, really fast last year, but it's part of Harvard Business School's social enterprises in education effort, and education is one of those. And the whole idea is, what role can the school board play in ensuring that we're creating the conditions for success, where you want to help achieve excellent performance with kids and then make our best practice into common practice in terms of how we work together, how we work with the administration and their team, and how we sort of step back and play a strategic and policy-focused role and allow the district to go do the work that they're doing. It brought together 18 districts across 13 different states to sort of develop this program, touching 2.1 million kids. There were 80 board members in attendance, including superintendents from 14 different schools and some board officers. Sort of the concept or the components of the Accelerating Board Capacity Program is classroom learning. It's 3.5 days. There's reflection time. You live together, but they split the boards up. So a lot of these boards went together, but they were living with and learning with and collaborating with board members from other districts as well. So you get this nice cross-section of experiences, et cetera, to sort of learn from. There's obviously networking and then unstructured time. And it struck me as we haven't really done a lot of that, right? Professional development as a board, and I think it should be a requirement for us to do something like this, right? It's a unique opportunity for you to dive deep, to learn from others who are doing this work, and sort of raise our level of excellence within the board. So I point this out because, one, it was a really, really interesting session, but two, because I'd like for us to start thinking about how we can be more deliberative in our professional development as a board, and this is just one way to do that.
I was impressed. I wish I would have gone to that session, Nate. So I want to I could have said some other jokes. I wanted to echo the perspective that Nate talked about, because I knew we had a great team. I know we're an amazing district, and we're going places that we haven't been in a very long time. And this is in part because of the leadership that was here before, and Dr. Bedell as well and his team. But truly, I mean, I walk around with a local celebrity all the time, and it was exactly the same way. To see people with an emphatic approach to talking to Dr. Bedell for a genuine understanding of what he's been able to do so far, it was amazing. And to see in the presentation that you all gave, the comparison to other districts, I was just like, man, what are they doing? Like, did they go to the same schools? Like, because it's just not on the same level at all. And to understand that in that specific conference, we're one of the smallest schools, right? The school districts. And I just couldn't imagine operating the size and capacity of those other districts like New York and Chicago with the funds that they have and the staff that they have. And it was tremendous to understand the scope of where we are as a district. So that was good perspective to have. And just to solidify from Ryan all the way up to you, we have the best of the best who was attending that conference and that presentation. So that was one thing. I attended a session that specifically was focusing on Chicago public schools and what they're doing around, I want to say probably the best thing to capture it as is student empowerment. they were really focused on the idea of not only educating a student academically, but also making sure civically they're participating and they're engaged, as well as giving education back to their teachers and to their administrators. Chicago apparently hosts a conference, so Dr. Davis, I'm sure we'll talk about this at some point. They host a conference where students are teaching and educating younger students. And that was an amazing thing and concept to think about. And then they hosted a conference on how they can be better students to the teachers. And I was just like, the students are teaching the teachers. This is wow. It just goes so far beyond this idea of like student council or after school a volunteer club. It was truly amazing to see that Chicago had an entire office invested on like student engagement externally, and so it was incredible to learn about that process.
Madam Chair, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, and I really appreciate the remarks of my colleagues. I think it is, even though I was not in attendance, I feel the same kind of thrill just listening to you all talk about it. I've had that experience before. I've seen how popular our superintendent can be in public settings, and I found myself wanting to tell people he's not that great, so turn away. But I really do. I do appreciate your reflections, and it is thrilling, and I also love the comments about our own collective professional development and growth. I think it's really important. So thank you, Dr. Bedell. The next item on the agenda is the workshop presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll have multiple presentations as a part of the Board Policy Monitoring 1.3 series. We will start off with Mr. Lloyd Jackson, who will come up, and I don't know if Darren Slade, if you're helping him, but I think he has it. He'll come up at this point and focus on 1.3.3. All scholars will obtain the life skills necessary to demonstrate self-improvement of their mental, emotional, and physical health. So we'll pass it over to you, sir.
Awesome. Superintendent Bedell, Board Chair Mansfield, and other board members, it's a pleasure to get a chance to share some conversation around discipline with you today, as it aligned with our strategic plan, our personalized, rigorous, culturally responsive teaching and learning there in Pillar A. Goal 2B, increase percentage of students who receive effective social and emotional behavior interventions and continuous access to an advocate and a mentor. And then our key action item there, 1.1, ensure that every school is a safe, secure, orderly, drug-free environment for learning with uniform standards for ensuring positive learning culture, within which students feel valued, cared for, challenged, and supported. And that's a very noble goal, and it's a goal we're reaching for every day in our schools. So we want to have some common language around behavior and what that report looks like as we talk about the different styles of behavior. So you see the behavior events and what those are called. Then on the other side, there on the right, you see action descriptions. So OSS is out of school suspension, ISS in school suspension, just so we have some common language across the system when it comes to the discipline. So we'll jump into the conversation. And so suspensions they are down across our system, both elementary and secondary, and that's good news. So at the same time this time last year, our numbers are down. Schools are utilizing a variety of things and strategies and interventions to prevent suspensions, and we're seeing some success in those strategies. So you look at all schools across our system, again, you see the decrease within that number. You look at neighborhood schools, you see a decrease in those numbers. And that's from month to month, August, September, and October. Signature schools, you'll notice there's a small uptick within those campuses, but also you see that's a small number of the total number of discipline referrals for suspension. Elementary suspensions, again, we see that there is a decline there. Middle school, good trend we're seeing here. Declining across our system. Elementary school suspensions have decreased significantly. And you saw that in those graphs. All of our Tier 3, and I want to reiterate this, all of our Tier 3 elementary schools which are receiving those additional supports, the behavior interventionists, the social and emotional supports that we have in place, saw a reduction in suspension rates when compared to this time last year. So we're seeing that the dollars and cents we put into supporting our families, supporting our kids when they're on campus and supporting our teachers, we're seeing some fruits from that labor. So we're going to the high school, and here's an area where we see the numbers start to go in an upward trend, and we begin to focus in and look, what can we do, what do we need to do in order to support our secondary level, and this is specifically the high school. But if we start breaking it down, we see that of our 9 secondary schools, that's middle and high schools, 5 of those we saw decreases in their discipline data, and so we see 4 schools that will kind of zero in our efforts and our conversations around what is causing that increase. So most of our school suspensions are because of level 3 and level 4 situations, things that oftentimes you really don't have a lot of interventions with, because if you go into a fight, that's a level 4, that's a suspension. You bring drugs, you bring weapons, those kind of things are level 4, and again, it's a suspension. So we try to do the things we can to minimize those repetitive issues so that we can reduce the number of suspensions. And we also are seeing violent and egregious acts stemming in our communities coming to our campuses. And mostly, again, that's at the high school level where we're seeing students who don't know how to manage conflict at home. That same set of conflict comes to school, and we're seeing some things happening on our campuses. So we have schools who are utilizing restorative practices and problem-solving team. You see challenges, we put them in front of that problem-solving team in order to support that student to be at school. We have trainings related to classroom management, restorative justice practices, and effective use of that PST, or that problem-solving team. And we're listening to students. Dr. Bedell did a town hall, and our principals are talking with and having conversations with their student councils and student body groups. And then we as a leadership team, school leadership and curriculum instruction and professional development are going out and having smaller focus groups as we go into those campuses to hear from the student. And also to empower them to create solutions. Oftentimes their voice seems to go unheard, or they feel like they're being unheard, so we try to give them a listening ear and then some action behind that ear. So the next few slides are our sub-pop. And so we're going to look at individual subpopulations. So the students with IEPs, those are your students with disabilities. You see that number, for the most part, there is a decline. Students with limited English, if we look at those numbers, we will talk more around solutions here a little later in the presentation, but that's an uptick for us. And we focus in there. Our black students decline. Hispanic students. LEP, you heard just a moment ago, we're going up, and you see that the number in Hispanic, there could be a nice correlation there. Again, we'll talk more a little later in the presentation. Our white students, while there is a low number of students with OSS, or out-of-school suspension, we do see a slight uptick in those numbers. And then students with other race or ethnicities. Again, another small number, but some numbers that we see going in the upward trend. So what do we see? Well, our suspensions are down across the system as a whole. The majority of our Tier 3 schools have reduced suspensions dramatically. Schools where we have increased resources have decreased suspension rates. Suspensions have increased in some of our Tier 1 and Tier 2 schools. And so an example is there. While there is an increase in our Tier 1 and Tier 2, you look at Hale Cook in 2018 had 6 out-of-school suspensions, and in 2019 had 12. So again, small numbers, but that's an uptick that we want to look at and keep an eye on. And then Rogers, 2018 had 10, and in 2019, 22. And I will say both of those campuses have increased populations on them in total. And so that could be a cause for some of those numbers increasing. Suspension rates for Hispanic and ELL students have increased. Again, we saw that number. We are in the process of meeting with principals, assistant principals, and school level staff in order to get a good understanding of some of the qualitative data around these numbers. We see the quantitative, now we're figuring out what is the why behind what's going on those campuses. Questions?
Questions, Ms. Wolfsey?
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's not so much a question, I'm just going to kind of tag onto something that my colleague, I almost called you Dr. Abarca, Mr. Abarca mentioned. So on the high school, the increases that we're seeing there, and I know that, we're going to listen more. And one of the things I wonder about is the effect that teaching middle and high schoolers how to advocate what kind of an effect that can have on overall behavior, because you feel like you actually finally have power and a voice and a productive way to use it. So it's just a thought that I had coming out of the observation that he had out of Chicago Public Schools.
Thank you again, and I really do applaud the progress that the district has made in making these significant changes. I do appreciate seeing that. Couple things. Earlier in the year, when we saw a similar presentation, there was like a breakdown as to the offense levels, and I remember there being like a huge category that said other. And like I know the literature talks about how the stuff that goes into the other, a lot of that is like attitude, defiance, the teacher defiance, those sorts of things. So I remember making a point to say that we need to break that out. And so I would like to kind of eventually get another update as to where we are with that, because when you look at it, even on DESE, the majority of the suspendable offenses are actually in that other category, which is a weird type of graph when you think about it, because I think there's a lot of meat there to be seen. And then the other question I had was, why are fights, so two kids get into a fight, why is that automatically a suspendable offense for them instead of like a mediation or something? Is there a state law for that or rule?
Well, our policies depict, we have levels, so
Okay.
level 3, level 4, and those consequences that are assigned to that.
Okay.
And doesn't mean that we do not bring back in that conversation before they come back to that campus to have that restorative justice kind of conversation. But in order to make sure we have order and ensure that we have students who understand the severity of that kind of disruption on campus, and it doesn't mean it's like a 10-day suspension. It's a 1-day, 2-day, 3-day suspension in order to calm that, separate the parties, and then have some productive conversations when they get back on campus.
And I will say to you, Dr. Jones, that typically, just in my experience of working in a couple of other school districts, generally your level 3 infractions, that's where fights fall, and even in those states, those are suspendable offenses. I mean, generally, unless somebody, it's obvious and we got evidence that one kid went over and clocked the other one and then there was self-defense, I think principals can use discretionary action on that based on conducting an investigation. But every state I've worked in, that level 3 infraction for fighting is a suspendable offense.
Correct. I will say that not every fight, again, the principal has discretion. Not every fight is a suspension. It really depends on the severity and what's really happening in that situation. Did it cause a major disruption of the learning environment? And then we kind of work from there. And whether there are injuries, you look at all those pieces and you use your discretion as an administrator to say, what is the best course of action?
Obviously, I'm going to ask, I'd love to see the report once you find that, and hopefully that there's subsequent action as to why the Hispanic kids and the ELL, ESL kids are on the rise and otherwise a trending down data point. But I wonder, I guess my question is around, I was recently at a school and the principal was talking to me about some troubled students and how a mediation with, I think, the guardian as well as I think some conversations with the coach dramatically had an impact on that student. And so I know that, Dr. Bedell, you're working on incentives for schools, right? I mean, in that same school, they didn't have a student council. They have no strong support that creates that incentive side. So when you're not able to capture a student's attention by the overarching, I'm going to suspend you, is there other means that we're not necessarily looking at and studying comparison here that maybe we need to also add into this equation?
Well, in my presentation, I have more information about what we're doing to kind of deal with some of the challenges that we have and talk about some of the success and the reasons, the things that we put in place. But I wanted to kind of bring to your attention the question about our Hispanic students. So we have done a deep dive and really looked at this information, had conversations with our students as well as with our clinicians and people that are working with this population. And what we're finding is our students are stressed dealing with what's on the national level and the trauma that their family is facing with immigration and all those types of pieces. And that information, that's coming into the schools. And we're seeing a lot of kids that they're dealing with anxiety, they're dealing with, emotional, not knowing how to really capture that. And I think we got a little bit of that last presentation where some of the students talked about how the emotions when we had the presentation from the students that won the art competition about what they're dealing with. And so we're working to have some things in place, and I'll kind of talk about that to kind of address some of those concerns that we're seeing.
So you put something in my head that I think is a good question to ask. Do we do anything in those situations where a student may be struggling with family immigration issues in terms of support? Like, right, so if we have issues where a student is almost becoming homeless, we have
Yes.
legal aid to assist with that. Do we have anything similar for those who are within the immigration system?
Yes, we do. We actually are working closely with our ELL department, and we combine and to look at a collective impact model of how we provide supports for those families. We have a partnership with Maddie Rose and how they're trying to support us with some boots on the ground interventions to kind of really go in and support those students as well. So we have developed a plan, of targeting and being able to have those conversations in conjunction with our Plaza program to really and truly identify what families are in need of support and how we can best support them. So we have a strategy and we're working our strategy. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, can you go back to slide 30 for me? Okay, so the word spiraling stood out for me. It has a strong negative connotation. And I look at 2006, 6, and then we go to, or 2018, sorry, 6, and then 2019 is 12. I just want to make sure the words were used. I don't want people to walk away from the presentation seeing this and going, oh my God, things are on fire, right? Because people automatically assume that. They hear KCPS and there's all this stuff out there that's totally untrue. And I see the word spiraling and someone's listening in or they're watching and they leave this setting and go, oh man, they tell their neighbor, things are spiraling out of control at KCPS. Absolutely not the case. So I would just a point of emphasis, like going forward, we might want to just be careful about the words we use unless it's appropriate, obviously, but it doesn't feel appropriate in this context.
I would agree there completely.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate your insights. With regard to some of these numbers, are these unique students or are these incidents? And
These are
can you give us a sense of how many students are involved in these? I mean,
We can
do you
certainly
translate
report
that
that.
between incidents and
Don't
number
have
of
that number in
students?
front of us, but we can certainly get that number back out to you to see the
Okay.
unique students that are tied to this number.
Because I think that would kind of help us with a
Yeah.
sense of some of the
What's that?
challenges.
Great question.
I'll go ahead and ask a couple questions, and then I'll go back to my colleague, Ms. Wolfsey. I think so much of the work that has to happen, and maybe we're going to get into this, Dr. Woodley, with your presentation, but so much of the management of this and the mediation of this really rests on the shoulders of teachers. And so I'm very interested, it doesn't have to be at this moment, but ideally in Dr. Woodley's presentation or in subsequent, what are the kinds of supports we're putting there so that teachers can be effective in that moment? Because as young people bring in their kind of stress and trauma, that lands generally squarely inside the classroom door. I mean, it may happen in the hallway and it may happen on an athletic field, but it's often in a classroom, inside the classroom, where a teacher is is generally the only adult present in that room. So I think that's really a comment more than anything, and so those kinds of supports, because it's positive to see the numbers decrease, and I'm hoping some of the work we will be able to undertake with the VOCA grant will also help contribute to some improvements in this area. It'd be wonderful to just see that, those numbers
Going down.
spiral down.
One of the
Okay.
things that I will put on the table for you, and I'm sure Dr. Woodley will speak more to it in her presentation, is we have, for our teachers, provided restorative justice practice training, and that's going to go online, even for our educators, so they can do that after hours in the comfort of their own home to kind of get those tools in their toolbox along this journey, and some additional classroom management practices and supports for the students that we serve.
That's great, and I appreciate that, and I like the use of technology, but I also know teachers go home and are tired.
Well, we offer it
And
after
so
hours.
yeah,
In
wonderful.
person.
As
Yeah, it
long
is
as
offered
we're
there.
really driving that and helping them see that as a resource and a support. So thank you so much, Ms. Wolfsey.
I have a question as it relates to, so I was reminded that the levels come from the code of conduct, correct? Just kind of for our education, the code of conduct, I used to, many years ago, would sit on a committee that would review it each year as a parent leader. Can you just educate the board on what goes on with that each year and what's in it and maybe what's looked at? Because those offenses, I remember being discussed in that yearly evaluation.
Yes, so we host those meetings every year where we have different people from different areas come in and kind of look at it. So we have teachers, we have administrators, we have senior leadership come, and we actually analyze the school code of conduct and identify, okay, or these different offenses, do we still feel like this is a level 3 or level 4, or could this be bumped down? What are some different ways that we can go about addressing these issues? So we make sure that that is updated on an annual basis, and we look at it through a trauma-informed lens and how we can better support the schools and the students annually as we do that. So yes, and so that is a lengthy process that we go through, and we really are very intentional about developing the student code of conduct.
So my follow-up to that would be, I don't remember us having students on there, but I do remember having a couple of parents.
Yes.
So, because we'll vote, I believe we vote to adopt the code of conduct every
Yes.
single year. So I'd like to know if, including those other voices is part of your consideration.
Yes, it definitely is. And so we start the process in February, start looking at the code of conduct for the next year. And so we'll be putting that information out, and we love to invite, more, the more the merrier to come and get different thought processes around us implementing our code of conduct for next year.
Okay, I appreciate the language about, or not language, but the updates around kind of the supports that are being provided to students, the restorative practice that's been, the training that's been given to teachers and administrators as well. I think that from a community engagement standpoint, it will be helpful for us as a board to have some of those talking points around what's being done to kind of not just support the students who we know are coming in with trauma and stress, but the narrative that's in the community, and it's not totally unfounded, is that teachers are a part of the problem. That the people who stand before our children every day, some of them may bring their own trauma that they have not dealt with into the classroom. And so that when that bumps up against a student's trauma, fireworks ensue. And so if we could have a better
Understanding.
competence around talking to people about this is what our district is doing to work from both ends of the problem, or both sides of the same coin. So I think that would be helpful going forward.
Well, awesome. I plan to kind of give you some of that information tonight, and I will be more than happy to give you some talking points to, go out into the community as well.
Thank you so much.
All right. Dr. Woodley.
All right, so I am so excited to serve as the Executive Director over Student Support Services for our district. And our department is comprised of multiple different areas. And I want to just kind of give you a quick highlight of some of the major initiatives that we have going on in each area. So this year, new to our department is the Office of School Counseling. So all the school counselors kind of serve under our department. And one of the major things that you kind of talked, as Mr. Jackson kind of talked about in his presentation about the implementation of our problem-solving team. And so our school counselors are really leading this drive for implementing problem-solving teams within our schools. So we're excited about the work that they're doing. Our behavioral health clinicians. And so normally when you think about a school, we always refer to school social workers, but in Kansas City Public Schools, we call them trauma-sensitive clinicians because we have social workers as well as licensed professional counselors that support our schools. And so something that's new this year, last year and previous years, and I'll kind of talk about that on an upcoming slide, we didn't really have enough clinicians to really support the needs of the school. I think we went from 6 clinicians to serving 35 schools back in 2017 to 8 clinicians last year serving 35 schools. So you can imagine, you know, some of the challenges that we have with schools and those clinicians not being able to provide the level of support needed because they were serving 4 and 5 buildings. And so trying to really and truly build those relationships and things of that nature. So based on our understanding of the needs of our schools, we're being able to kind of revamp that, and I'll kind of talk about that in a little bit more detail. But what we're doing is we're looking at data from a trauma-informed lens. So the clinicians now look at the data. So we're no longer waiting for students to be referred. So we're able to look at the data, look at whether or not, what students are having discipline issues, what students are not coming to school, all those different components, what students are failing most of their classes. Because we know if a student is not coming to school, they're having multiple disciplinary issues, and they're failing all their classes, something additional is going on. So we're looking at our data through a trauma-informed lens, and they're pushing in to say, hey, what's going on with this kid before they even are getting referred. So we're excited about that work and that partnership, and we're seeing some of the fruits of our labor. Our school discipline office, we're actually pushing out instead of just waiting for hearing referrals coming into our building. We're looking at trends, we're looking at data and identifying schools that we're seeing a lot of referrals from, and we're pushing out to those schools, and the hearing officer is actually going into those schools and supporting them, giving them strategies to kind of work with schools, as well as providing professional development on de-escalation strategies. We hosted trainings for all of our assistant principals on de-escalation strategies to try to help them with some strategies and be able to take back to their schools. And then we had targeted support for our alternative schools on de-escalation strategies. And we're looking at rolling out those trainings throughout the district and develop teams within every building on de-escalation techniques and things for each school building. Our nurses have been trained in mental health first aid, and I'm so excited about this because in partnership with our clinicians, our nurses, and our school counselors, we're now able to have multiple people in a building that have an understanding of mental health first aid, and they're able to do the suicide screeners and be able to kind of identify, what's going on with kids so we can be able to provide additional wraparound services. Our security officers, every security officer in Kansas City Public Schools has received mental health first aid training. So they know how now to engage with students and be able to provide support. So we're excited about that as well. Last year we began our work with alternative education and kind of look at what's going on in alternative ed and developed a action research model where we're able to look at how do we make sure we're having the best implementing the exemplary practices needed for us to meet the needs of our most at-promise students with alternative ed. So that's ongoing, the work that we're doing with alternative education. Our ombudsman program is collaborating with our family and community engagement on how to better serve families because, the ombudsman supports, complaints that come in and challenging. So he's working with our family and engagement department on how to really focus on schools. So we're looking at the data. We're looking at what schools are we getting most complaints from, and so how can we better help those schools and equip them with the support that they need in order for us to better engage with families so we decrease our number of issues within families. In our Plaza program, not only are we working with the families on social and emotional concerns, we're now looking at partnering with our counseling department and really focusing on helping those families focus on college and career readiness for those students as well. So we're excited. We have a lot of great things going on in our department. And our focus is Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 interventions and how we're able to support the schools on all those 3 different levels and different capacities. One of the things that I was charged with coming into the student support department is really looking at how can we really fulfill the vision of Dr. Bedell and the strategic plan on implementing a trauma-informed school system. So we looked at, hey, these are the elements, or the essential elements of a trauma-informed school system. How do we make sure we're implementing these things with fidelity? So using research-based practices and looking at, hey, how we're addressing each one of these areas and grading ourselves and being able to say, hey, we're doing really well in this area, but in this area we still need some work. And so developing a 3 to 5 year plan in order for us to make sure that we become the trauma-informed school system that we desire to become, fulfilling our goals as a strategic plan, in our strategic plan. I talked a little bit about our collaborating for collective impact. We were doing a lot of great things in Kansas City Public Schools, but what was going on is a lot of people were working in silos. And so how do we come together to make sure that we are getting the impact that we need within our schools? So what we've done is we've come together and worked with multiple departments. We worked with the dropout prevention team, the extended learning team, the family community engagement team, and we meet monthly all together, the clinicians, me, the dropout prevention coordinators, our students in transition team, and we look at data and we say, hey, what's working well, what's not working well, and so we're constantly updating our strategies on how to better support our schools and providing them with the support that they need. So we're very excited about this new work. So culture is the lens through which we see the world. So when we look at and we think about our schools, and we kind of talked about identifying, we see some hot spots in this building. This building seems to be transitioning well. What we have to understand is every school has its own DNA. And so what we've done is we've partnered with the Office of School Leadership, and we went into every building and did culture and climate walkthroughs. What's working well in your building? What's not working well in your building? What type of professional development that you need? And being able to personalize our experience with every building to be able to provide them with the next level of support that's needed. So through us going through and doing those climate and culture walkthroughs, we're able to realign our supports that we have for those schools. So I talked a little bit earlier talking about the trend of the number of clinicians to schools. This year, based on our information and being able to look at our vacancies and move funding around, we were able to now have 13 clinicians for 35 schools. So we're very, very excited about that. So the next level of support is there. Additionally, talking about, looking at, trends and looking at identifying certain schools as having an uptick. We identified the Northeast corridor are having some major concerns, and we know a lot of our Hispanic students are in that corridor. So what do? We partner with Maddie Rose to kind of say, hey, these are some areas that we have some concerns with. How can we partner? What funding do you currently have that you can kind of help support us? Traditionally, for the last couple years, Maddie Rose has been in our Northeast High School. But there has not been any support for Northeast Middle. So we kind of jumped over that area, and that kind of left a major issues. And I don't know if you guys recall, last year, Northeast Middle had the most suspensions of any other school in our district. And so with that being said, we've been able to have a full-time clinician for Maddie Rose to provide mental health services in the building so students don't have to be referred out. Services can be provided right in the building. Additionally, we were seeing some upticks and some concerns at Whittier, and so the community actually came together and provided Maddie Rose with some funding. So we have a part-time Maddie Rose clinician housed in Whittier as well. So we are basically developing a pipeline of support for the elementary, middle, and high schools throughout that whole feeder zone to address the needs of that community. And additionally, we're working with a partnership with Swope Health Services to provide mental health services in-house at Banneker. One of the other partnerships that we have is the Center for Conflict Resolution. Kind of talked about with the VOCA grant, looking at how we can expand that to be district-wide. But we're continuing our partnership already this year with the Center for Conflict Resolution. They kind of started with us the last couple of years working in a couple of schools, and we're continuing that work because we know that it has to be embedded. And as we get new teachers and new students, we want to kind of continue that kind of focus to kind of provide those services. So they're continuing in Southeast High School, Northeast Middle School, and Central Middle School. But new to our partnership this year already, we've started supports for Success at Anderson and Success at Knox as well. So of course, we're looking at the whole child through our department. We want to make sure our students are healthy, safe, engaged, supported, and challenged. And based on the supports that we've been already for the first 3 months been able to provide, what we've seen is last year at this time we gave a presentation and we had touched 1,419 students and families. This year, the same 3 months time period, we have tripled our impact and we have engaged 3,320 families. So we know, so we're seeing the benefits, we're seeing that the data is going down, we see that our strategies are effective, we're just continuing to refine what we're doing to make sure we continue on this positive trajectory. Additionally, one of the questions that you guys asked was, how are we supporting teachers? And so what we began to identify is when we had conversations with principals, with teachers, with students, what we've learned is we're having difficulty of how do we support the unique needs of our population that we serve. And so being able to provide professional development focused on that. So what we've done is we've been able to develop a professional development catalog. I'm so excited about that because we'll be able to provide professional development training that's unique to different situations or scenarios that we know that our teachers are faced with. So in addition, our principals are able to call on us. We're able to come in and do professional development, whole group on some of those Wednesdays professionals development. But in addition to that, we're able to, when the teachers have their Flex Wednesdays, beginning in January, they'll be able to go into My Learning Plan and say, hey, I need professional development in this area. And we'll be able to provide personalized professional development to meet the unique needs of our teachers. And so we're very excited about that opportunity. In addition to us being able to have whole group, we're willing to go in and meet with teachers going into classrooms, give them on-site opportunities to see what's going on in the classroom and give them that one-on-one support to be able to say, these are some strategies that you can use and try. And we have we're loving being able to have that level of engagement with our teachers this year due to our expanded department. So I think Mr. Jackson kind of alluded to, we wanted to say, we want to remove any barriers to professional development. So we're going to come out to your school, we're going to do whole group, we're going to go in your classroom, support you individually, we're going to do Flex Wednesdays PDs, but in addition, if you are one of those people and you can learn independently and you want to still engage in your own professional development on your own time, we are providing a system where you can actually go in and engage in professional development and providing you incentives to be able to do that. So I'm so excited. We're partnering with the Department of CIPD to develop those online modules for teachers to be able to engage in this work. So we have a lot of wonderful things going on in our department, and we're looking forward to continued success. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much. I'll go to Mr. Barca and then Dr. Jones, and then I'll come down.
A couple questions.
Yes.
So, as I was thinking about the response about Plaza, I think that's a great point. I guess I know, or I'm familiar with the Mexican consul support in terms of their legal services,
Yes.
and they're willing to cover. How does it work when a student may be from Guatemala? Because I think that creates a different challenge because the Mexican consul doesn't support their legal services. Do we have anything for the rest of the Latinx community in that way?
Well, our support with the our Justice Department center that we have at the Family and Community Engagement Center at Central is where we usually direct families to get additional levels of support.
Okay. I want to explore more about that and
Okay.
just have me be educated, I guess, more about that, because I'm familiar with legal aid and they can't help in that situation and others. And so I think those services are rather unique if we have a family in trauma related to immigration status. Another question, very quickly, is our SROs, our KCPD officers who are in the building, are
Yes.
they all CIT trained? Or
Most of them have received the training, but we're looking to roll it out to make sure that everybody is trained. That's one of our strategies this year,
Crisis
to make sure that everybody receives that level of training.
Yeah, good.
It is a long, intense training, so to pulling them out of the building to try to make that happen. So we're looking at how do we do it on our off time.
I kudos to our officers here for them doing the training like that, but I know KCPD is a voluntary thing,
Yes.
and so I think that's important for us to have for our students there. Final question is, and thank you, Dr. Jones, for helping me phrase this. So our clinicians, I think, sounds like are very trained for violent crime, trauma, and some other issues. How are we serving our LGBTQ community, and do we have clinicians that are specifically trained to support our students there?
So one of the things, and one thing I'm so excited about is, of course, we get in the VOCA grant, so we can make sure that we're able to provide different professional developments for all of our clinicians. So what we've done so far is we've went through and identified what specialties each one of our clinicians have. So we're able to have different people specialize in different areas. But we know how, we have staff members. We want to have multiple people that are trained in all areas. So we want to develop a professional development plan and a system to be able to make sure that we're receiving rotating training in all those particular areas. But we do, and we have those students, and we serve them, and we love on them, and we're having great success with those students as well.
Dr. Jones?
The question I have now is just about kind of taking it to a meta level,
Yes.
Which is, so if you're doing all these wonderful things to provide this professional development so that teachers and administrators can better serve students, do you all, just for education purposes, do you have a group that is also responsible for making sure that the emotional well-being of teachers
Yes,
is maintained
yes,
as
yes,
well?
yes.
And how do you
So
do
we
that?
we
What
have
does that look
that's part of our strategic plan to look at how do we make sure that we I don't know if you saw it on there. One of the things is self-care. And so we're looking at working with our schools. Some of our schools are really blazing the trail at this. We're looking at, just like we have de-escalation areas for students, we're looking at developing de-escalation areas for teachers, and we got, putting those things in place and working with principals on doing different activities to kind of work with our teachers. So we're very excited about the work that we're doing in this area.
And just as follow-up, so in part of like the whole trauma-sensitive or trauma-informed model that is kind of talked about a lot in the community, they talk about even just like your work environment. So like how much lead time do you get before things are due, or before things are you got to be at a meeting or something like that? How much awareness and lead time do people have? Just sensitivity to individuals' needs, and just how that carries throughout the culture of a workplace. So
Yes.
just something that I'm thinking about.
Okay. Thank you.
Rita?
Dr. Woodley, thank you for the presentation. Kind of two questions. The second one, it's something you can share with us later.
Okay.
Because I don't want to put you on the spot. Based on the work that we're doing, are you developing some ideas that you can share with the schools locally that we recruit from, so that they can start to provide deeper education to their students who are going into education, to be better prepared when they enter the profession?
Well, I'm happy that you kind of brought that up. I had an opportunity this summer to present in London, and it was on different schools from around the United States and UK to talk about how to better develop their programs to meet the needs, to make sure that we're getting teachers that are trained to work with unique populations. So yes, I am really entrenched in this work and really looking at how do we make sure that our different teachers coming into the system are prepared, and I'm very interested in partnering with HR on how we can really reach out to our local colleges and help them prepare as well.
Okay. The other question is really kind of an example question, and that's why I don't want to put you on the spot tonight,
Yes.
but perhaps the next time you talk with us, would you be able to share an example of the strategy changes that come from the collaboration that you're
Yes.
talking about?
Yes, what I can do is I will be able to provide you in the Friday update to kind of give you an example of the work that we're doing in conjunction with all of our departments and see what that work looks like, because it's fascinating how we're able to kind of come together and how we're able to now see how the systems are aligned. And not, that, because what we're experiencing is you have the homeless department that's working with the student, you have our attendance team with the dropout prevention going in because the student hadn't come to school, and then you got the clinician. So you got 3 people going to the same house working with the same family. So that was a poor use of resources. You know what I'm saying? Because, and if we would have just had the conversations like we have now, we're able to say, okay, this person is going to take point on this family, and so that frees up our resources to work with another family, and everybody's having the conversations and talking.
Great, thank you
Yes.
very much.
I really appreciate this presentation. I think you can tell by the questions that we want to make sure that children have the best opportunities, but we're also very conscious, I believe, when I'm hearing the questions about the burden that is placed on teachers' shoulders and the kind of way we address self-care and give them resources and support. So I appreciate all you've shared with us this evening. I'm impressed by how you've been able to double clinicians over a 2-year period. That's amazing, frankly. So really impressed, because I can remember those days of us having only 6 across an entire district. One question that I have is, since you have identified, and I've heard Dr. Bedell talk about this, there's been sort of an uptick in maybe some trauma, stress, behavioral issues, and you're seeing some of that clustered in some of our northeast area schools, maybe some difficulties that they're really happening across the district, but you're identifying a particular geographic region that might be having a hard time, and there could be multiple factors, as I think my colleague, Mr. Abarca, was alluding to. There could be many things. Not that we wouldn't pull resources from elsewhere, but kind of similarly to how do we do our educational investments or interventions, would you think about if we have a particular set of situations occurring, can we draw and really go in and try to get deep in that area
I'm working
to
on-
ameliorate that?
Exactly. I am working on that. I was actually, I've written, a couple of grants to really just target our work. I've been working in collaboration with Casey Nova, as well as Maddie Rose, as well as some other agencies, our gang unit, different people to kind of come in and let's look at, what families are having the concerns. So we have definitely, really been very strategic in developing a plan for those areas, and then identifying different fundings. And then once we begin to roll out the VOCA grant, some of that funding will be going to provide additional supports for the areas in which we see that we have the greatest needs.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? All right. Ms. Wilsey?
It's not a question. It is very apparent that you have such a passion for this work.
Yes.
And I just wanted to let you know that we see that, and I am very appreciative that you're getting the opportunity to use that passion for us in this area. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Woodley. We will have Dr. Darrell Davis come up to provide an update on our mentoring initiative.
Good evening, Dr. Bedell, Board Chair Manser, members of the board. We just heard a lot of great Tier 3 interventions and strategies from Dr. Woodley that's going on in her department. I want to share with you an update on our mentoring initiative, as it provides a lot of Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports for our youth in our school system. So strategic plan alignment, it aligns to Pillar B, strong relationships with families and community, as well as Goal 2B and Key Actions 1.2 and 4.4. When we look at who we serve, our mentee demographics closely mirror the district demographics, so we are serving a wide array, diverse group of young people in the mentoring program. These are our numbers at the end of last school year. You'll see that we have increased our partnerships. We'll actually have a lot more when we provide the same update at the end of the school year. That's not reflected on this particular slide from last year, but our partners have totaled 1888 last year, and then we have 4 mentoring programs that we run and operate: Lunch Buddies, Success Mentors, Career Mentors, and MOCA, and we ended last year with 697 students served in those programs, and combined total 2585, KCPS and the community wrapping its arms around as many young people as possible. And this is that same number just represented in that graph there, and in just a couple of school years, our numbers have really grown and surpassed our partners, and we continue to grow, and I'll show kind of where we are thus far this year in a later slide. So this slide looks at the 213 young people who were in the Success Mentors program when we first launched. Success Mentors intentionally we match young people whose attendance may be under 90% so that we can provide them with the additional support needed to improve attendance and to be successful in school. That first year when we averaged those 213 together, they had an average of 80% attendance. And so when we tracked that last school year, which would have been 1 year later, that average had grown to 85%, so a gain of 5% as a cohort. Also, when we pulled our homeless student data, it showed that 50% of homeless students in our district are meeting the 90% attendance requirement, and we can understand why those challenges, how it could prevent students from making it to school on a daily basis. But when we looked at the students who are coded as homeless but also have mentors, we found that nearly 74% of them are meeting the 90% requirement. So we believe that those mentors are providing a buffer and a support to help students overcome some life challenges. When we looked at our on track to graduate rate, we see that students with mentors is that red line, and the longer the student stays in the program, we begin to see that more of those students are on track to graduate within 4 years, and we're happy to see that having an impact at our high schools. When we looked at our on-track rate, just specifically looking at young men in the MOCA program, these were 10th and 11th graders last year. We'll provide a similar update at the end of this year. It will include 12th graders, so we now have 3 cohorts. When we looked at the young men in MOCA, and you see in comparing those young men to everyone else, male and female in their school, who are on track, at every school site, MOCA young men are able to stay on track with that additional mentoring support that they receive. So we've looked at some district-wide data. We also have the ability to pinpoint the impact at a particular school or a series of schools, and so we randomly picked a school for a presentation. And in looking at King Elementary, we found that 25% of the young people at this school are coded to a mentoring program. Those programs include Urban Rangers, Lead to Read, Girl Scouts, as well as Success Mentors and Lunch Buddies. And so when we looked at the attendance growth at King Elementary, you see that 69% of students with a mentor at King had an improved attendance over their previous school year, compared to about 49% of those without mentors. And then when we pulled the iReady score data, we found that 48.5% of young people met their iReady growth with those with mentors, compared to 35.7% for those without. And so we can see that across all this data that we've looked at, that on average, students with mentors are performing better with supports than those without. So our goal and our mission is to continue to recruit as many mentors as possible to match them with the young people in our school system so that we can not rest, not stop until every single student has the support that he or she needs. Last month at Central High School, we, Principal Madry and others graciously opened up their doors to allow us to have our annual mentoring kickoff there. This year was our largest one. Our mentoring initiative continues to grow each and every year. Not quite certain how we're going to manage next year with the number of mentors and mentees and families that are coming on board, but it's really a celebration to emphasize the importance of relationships. You do see that check there that our friends from Farmers provided us, and Mayor Lucas stopped by as well, but we had a really good turnout there. I do need to say that as a result of the success of the program, we unfortunately currently have needed to pause the number of, actually, so we don't have any current trainings on our site right now because Dr. Bedell calls it bandwidth, that there's so many who have signed up and been trained, and so it's taking us a little bit longer to get them through the system because we also have to keep up with all the internal training. So that first year we only had 12 schools. We now have more than 30 schools as part of the initiative, and so we have different staff members at each of the internal schools that need to get trained, and then also, of course, with the community. And so Sharina has taken on training the internal. I train those out in the community. It's a lot of ground to cover for just a few people, and so we've put a pause on that. So just wanted everyone to be aware that the demand is there, but we may have to slow down what we're able to manage as a school system. All right, as we go into this year, we're currently, for the KCPS-led programs, we're right at about 800. Again, once we pick up those trainings, I'm sure we'll end the year over 1,000, and as well as our partners, we continue to have more partners. Our current existing partners are also likely growing, so we do believe that at the end of this year we'll have a significant increase in the number of students served over last year. And do you have any questions?
Questions? Just a compliment, fantastic.
Thank you.
Fantastic, and the numbers really show it. And can you remind us, this data that you collect internally, I know this is just a tiny snapshot, but you're part of a Bloomberg School of Public Health. Are you part of a study or a national, or a Johns Hopkins maybe?
Yeah, so Johns Hopkins University has been looking at us as a model for how to grow the Success Mentors initiative out exponentially. We grew faster than really any other school system in the nation. Now, of course, New York City Public Schools piloted the program, but outside of New York City, we've grown faster than anyone else. And so I was sharing earlier, we actually have quite a few school districts that have reached out. Just 2 days ago, the superintendent from Boonville School District near Columbia asked if she could bring a team out to learn from us. They want to launch a mentoring initiative. We have emails from California school districts, Ohio. The word is out. Our keynote speaker at our kickoff just last month was David Shapiro, the CEO of Mentor, and he also is looking at us. Attendance works. So we have a model that's working, and there are quite a few locally and nationally that are looking at our programs.
And I just want to say this because we had our first MOCA mentoring session, and we had a team of administrators from Liberty schools that were in there observing that whole session.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Hogan?
So I guess I do have a point or two. So I just made a plug for you to get more mentors, by the way. So no, seriously, I mean, the results are there, right? It's like every kid should have a mentor, is how I feel. Like every single one of these kids should have a mentor because the result from a an attendance, if I can just talk, from an attendance perspective, from a performance perspective, all these things, right? I mean, the evidence is clear that these mentors are having an impact on a kid, and so every kid should have one. The Johns Hopkins sort of point, though, that you make, it's like, if only we had a chief marketing and communications officer who could take a note on that and say, let's splash that across the city, right? I mean, that's huge. That's huge, right? Yeah, I love how you guys just talk about it like it's like, yeah, we got that. I'm like, really? This is like one of the best universities in the country that we're talking about, and they're looking to us to go model what we're doing for the rest of the country. I mean, that's huge.
Yes.
Right,
And I do have to, oftentimes when I'm asked by other districts, how were we able to do it, I have to share it starts with a passionate superintendent. So Dr. Bedell, this really was his brainchild to make sure we had the additional supports that young people have. And so if districts, are wanting to launch this, but you don't have a superintendent that's out in the community raising the banner to say how important this is, they may not achieve the same results if they don't have the same foundation. So that's something that I share oftentimes. It's hard to get to the same outcome if you don't have that.
But I will say, while we're not able to touch as many kids as we would like, and it is a bandwidth piece, and it's, thank God the VOCA grant's going to help us with 2 additional FTEs to move forward with the work. When you look at this data, and then even if you go back and you start looking at our data over the last 2 years, when you think about our data and comparing our data against state averages in math and reading, and once science comes out, and you will notice this continuous trend of closing gaps against the state. That, just with those kids that we're touching, that's making a difference in the aggregate of what we're doing and the results we're getting. So I just want to make sure that the impact is significant, and it may not show up in proficiency rates, but where it is showing up is in growth in progress.
Yes.
Mr. Abarca?
Yeah, I want to echo my colleagues' sentiment, because I have worked with the MOCA program prior to being on the board, and I just see the value, right? And to Dr. Bedell's point about there is correlation between the mentorship programs and our academic success. And so I am a little challenged that I hear that we're not making a priority to expand, because I mean, even to the point of Louisville, right? This is the same stuff. What tremendous work, and your team is 4 or 5. What's your team now?
Yeah, we're 2.5 currently.
I just assumed.
Working specifically with the mentoring.
And see, what I see is if we go to slide 42, you are 2.5 serving 2,500 people.
Oh, I'm sorry, which slide?
42.
Oh, this one here, yes, 47, yes.
I mean, 2.5 people are serving this amount of people.
Yes.
I mean, imagine, I know this is your realm, but if there were 10 people, the impact that we could have. I mean, so I individually, I'm vowing to do whatever we need to do to help whatever we need to help to make this a reality. Because you're right, Nate. I mean, it is, the detail is here and the results. I mean, so I don't want us to be defeated by the challenges of budgets, and whether it's grants or whether it's we try and tighten to find something, I'm happy to do whatever my part is there.
Well, thank you, everyone. If I could close by just saying, I know all of us have likely had the experience of being at an elevator door and seeing someone coming, and we hold that door for them, waiting for them to come. Mentoring is like that in a lot of ways, that we have these caring adults coming from the community that feel that they have learned from their experiences, and they want to hold that door open to help a kid make his or her way through as well. Yeah.
Ms. Cortez?
Sorry, I'm a little slow here. As you're developing the, kind of building out the mentoring programs, will the data allow you to evaluate which of the programs, both the community partner programs and the internal programs, but really, I mean, that's a long list of community partner-led programs, and I'm aware of others as well, right? So are you able to develop a sense over time of which are truly impactful and which make people feel good but don't have the same level of impact, so you can put the resources in the right place?
Yes, we can, and I will say that we have each of the students coded in Tyler. It's just that we really needed that data staff person that we'll now have through the VOCA grant that can actually run that data, because many of our partners also want to know if they're making a difference so that they can make programmatic improvements and so forth. So it's really going to require running data all the time. And even when we look at this situation here, we had a young man from Northeast who was in Mocha who just dropped out of school. And Mr. Barker knows, we tried to hunt down the young man. His mother doesn't know where he's staying, and tried everything, but we don't know where he is in order to bring him back to school. But if we had the data person where we're running the data, we could have seen that something's not right here. His grades are starting to fall. He's missing school, where we can dispatch help to intervene before it's too late. So by the time we say, hey, where is he at? Now I can't find him. So the data is going to help us be more efficient at providing additional support, and then the program specialist will allow us to send support into the building anywhere in the district, and those are some of the bases we couldn't cover before.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Dr. Jones?
I'm grateful for the work y'all are doing. I'm grateful to be able to be a part of it. I find it to be a very fulfilling experience. The little impact we have, we know it's built upon slowly, so I appreciate the work y'all are doing with that. So just to be clear, you guys do not want us to promote getting more mentors right now. Is that?
Right now, we're kind of bogged down right now.
Yeah, and I think we want to let us get the personnel hired. And once we get those folks in, I think we'll be ready to really push this forward. And we can, now that we have our marketing and communications chief in, that will also give her time to work with the team around how do we get back out and let everybody know, hey, we got additional personnel, we're ready to move forward. Thank you for the demand, but now we think we can fulfill and meet those demands.
Guys, students who have challenges, those kind of come to the top of the list.
Yes. So with the lunch buddies, that's the one that's really open to really any student or parent who wants support. With Success Mentors, we are intentional about matching the mentors to students with the greatest need. Those that may have some challenges. And even with MOCA, we are intentional about going after students with around say a 2.5. So we identify them second semester of their 9th grade year, and then the goal is to ensure that they remain on track through graduation. And so without that support, we don't know if we could have had the numbers that you saw there as still remaining 100% 2 years later. So we believe that, in some of the schools, again, we unfortunately lost a young man at Northeast, but we're going to try to find him and bring him back and provide that support.
I know. Thank you, Dr. Davis. And I do want to say this, to your point, the power of it, because I know 1, 2, 3, and I don't know, y'all other folks probably been mentoring in many other ways, but I know 3 people up here are mentoring or have mentored students. And even with attending that first meeting, a student that I never would have thought didn't have an active father in his life, he opened up and was sharing with me like, hey, yeah, I don't have a father in my life, but, I'm persevering through all of that regardless, and I'm, my mother's a rock for me. But this is a kid that I never in a million years would have thought was dealing with that kind of stuff, because you just don't see it. But this mentoring program allows for these kids to lower their guards, and they open up. And the second that they're able to lower their guards, that's where they can begin to really flourish academically, because now you're getting a lot of that social and emotional tension and distress. You're getting it off and you're offloading it on other people who can kind of help absorb it. It's powerful. So I'm thankful for what we're doing, and I had already promised Dr. Davis that through some of the spillage and funds that we were able to kind of save, that I was going to personally go and fund for another support personnel. But we do have the grant, and I think those two will help us, and then we'll continue to monitor the growth, and we'll continue to try to figure out how we can also get funders out here to help us with it, because those FTEs are not cheap at all. And it does take a commitment, because we had to build this office, but that costs a lot of money. It's not cheap, but it's making a difference, and that's what matters.
All right, thank you. I will now turn it over to Dr. James Sanders. to continue with Board Policy 1.3.
Well, you know I couldn't come up here to a normal podium. You wouldn't see me. Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Bedell, Chairperson Manser, and the rest of the board. I'm batting cleanup tonight because mentoring is what athletics does. So, let's get this party started. First off, my other district ADs are with me this evening. We want to thank you. We didn't get a chance to thank each and every one of you individually for getting us our transportation. You don't know how much that's going to help. When we piloted it last year, we were able to be on time. And as you all know, for sporting, band trips, or whatever, there's a certain time, if you're not there, then people talk about you. Well, they're not going to talk about us anymore. You know, when you look at our pictures, a lot of times you see this smiling young girl and you see the gentleman above. Well, let's talk about this young man. He was the goalie at East High School. His name is Yakiman Mpenze, who's from, I'm sorry, I didn't put my glasses on. He's from the Congo. He graduated a year or so ago. He was first team all conference, first team all district, honorable mention all region, and in his senior year at East High School, he decided to run track. He had never done it before, and he ran the 200 meter and placed 11th in the state for someone who'd never done it. This young man currently is not going to college. He's working to try to be a professional soccer player, and his high school coach is working with him daily still to help him make his ambitions come true. That's what mentoring, and that's why we want to make sure that as young as our students are, all the way through high school, that we're mentoring and loving up on you. So even when you leave our glorious doors at KCPS, that there's someone still checking in on you. The next gives you an idea of the current sports that we are offering in Kansas City Public Schools. For all you folks, we did something this fall that I think was just spectacular. We offered softball, and it hadn't been offered in the district in about 35, maybe 40 years. So Lincoln was the first, and now the Bears are crawling out of their cave and getting ready to do the same thing next fall. However, in the state of Missouri, as you're well aware of, is that softball in the state of Missouri is played in the fall, but in our state of Kansas, it's played in the spring. So Lincoln and East are trying to work with some collaboration to play some of those teams so they can get ready for the fall. From an athletic standpoint, we are Pillar B. Also 1.4 for our actions and 4.4. Our pillars are revolving around people, mentoring, and all those kinds of things. Everybody that's a coach is some form of mentor. We take a young person, male coach or female coach, and try to dust him or her off and show them the right way. The classroom for sports is the playing field or the court, and you can learn a lot from those environments just as well as in your classroom. The next is our slide of how many student athletes we have participating for the past 4 years. And as you can see, our numbers are trending up. Now, the reason that they're trending up, the senior and junior class currently were our first student athletes that when we started 6 years ago, when we started middle school sports. The next representation is just a graphic representation of the numbers. But this is where I really get excited about. And I get excited about middle school because everybody wants to go to state, but you don't go to state unless you have a sound foundation as an early athlete. So, as you can tell right now, from where we started in 2016 as 152 young people, to where we're at today, 327. I am so proud of Paseo. Last year, Paseo, in the middle school cheer and dance competition, had such an impact that they won it. First award that Paseo has won since having middle school sports. But they have made us change the rules on how we grade because those young people blew it away. And out of that 70 number of students participating, 32 of them are young men and young ladies that are participating in cheer and dance. So those numbers are great for those young people. And as you can see, all our numbers are edging up. And this is just, once again, another graphical representation of our numbers. Now, last spring, we put a pilot program together. We wanted to know were our elementary young people ready to take on sport or activity. What we find is that our counterparts in the suburban schools is their mothers and fathers take them for training. Well, our urban population doesn't have the same resource to do that. So last year, spring, we piloted 3 programs. We piloted flag football, I piloted flag football, track and field, and basketball. And out of that, we saw that there was a need because we saw really nice numbers for those young people coming out. So this fall, we started our elementary school program. Some of these are the ones that we had this fall. We had cross country, boys and girls, soccer, boys and girls, and these are some programs that we hope to offer the next fall and next spring. And as you can tell, these are other programs. Currently, right now, we're in the process of working on our winter sports program for elementary. Our goal is to have an elementary program to strengthen the basic fundamentals of sport along with conditioning and understanding the rules of the game. The reason that we started middle school sport, 6 years ago, before we started it, we were in spring and it was a rainy day and we were at a school. And the baseball coach on the high school level asked his baseball team how many outs were there in baseball. And the kids didn't know. And I pulled him to the side. He goes, well, they don't know. And I'm like, okay, so we are struggling. So the way to build that is to build it from the youth. Now, I'm so excited about this. This to me is, we had cross country for our elementary kids. We only had one school that wanted to participate, but they brought 40 kids. And it was Carver. And Carver, I got hats off to these young people. Our elementary school program is between 4 to 6 weeks, and they were there all the time. And all 40 of these kids ran. So they were our elementary school cross country champs. So let's give these folks a hand. Next up is our elementary school soccer program. We had 135 young people sign up. In our 6-week program, we averaged between 36 to 38 people signing up for these programs. Our elementary sports programs are hosted from soccer. It's hosted by Global FC. We partner with a lot of groups for our elementary school program. Right now, Global FC will be taking care of soccer. The USTA will be working with tennis. We're working with Parks and Rec to have some other programs outside of athletics, chess and things like that, and we'll hopefully in the spring we'll give you what we're working on. We're still having conversations with them. We're blessed that Urban Youth Academy is instruction in the off season right now as well as in season, is working with our young people for softball and baseball. So we've got partners. We're always looking for more. Our goal is in elementary sport is to have elementary Saturday. And what elementary Saturday will be, once we get it all rolled out in 3 years, let's say that you want to learn art. Well, on Saturdays you can come and do art. Or let's say that you want to do sculpture. We'll have that sculpture. But here's the big key. If you were bad or you didn't have your attendance, you can't go to elementary Saturday. We want to extend the educational week for Saturday is elementary day for those young people, where they can come and learn a sport, learn a trade, learn a hobby, do fun things for them. But along with this, making sure that you had good attendance and your behavior was correct. That's our overall goal. Because if we're able to nurture these young kids when they're in the 4th grade all the way through, then what a great citizenship we're going to have. Because now they know the rules of the game to be successful. And it's just not successful on the playing field, successful in life. That's my story, and I'm definitely sticking to it. Questions?
Thank you so much. Ms. Wolfsey?
Thank you, Dr. Sanders, for the presentation. I had a question from a constituent a while ago, and it kind of applies to this. So, with regards to the high school and Misha,
Yes, ma'am.
and the requirements, I don't know if they're requirements, but what you have to have in order to play
Yes, ma'am.
versus what KCPS asks for
Yes, ma'am.
students. Can you explain that to us and maybe its impact on the ability to field an additional softball team?
Okay, let's explain. Misha says that I'm just going to use, you've got 5 classes. Misha says that out of the 5 classes, you can have an F and have D's in the rest of them. Misha doesn't say that you have to have a 2.0 GPA to play. But as we all know, you can't go anywhere with less than a 2.0. So what we ask all our high school principals, whatever your campus says is the rule for that campus of where you want to be for your student athletes. So that is up to that campus, and we agree. Well, and I know Mr. Madry's here. I think Mr. Madry's is 2.4 or 2.5 or something like that. Am I correct? Oh, I'm sorry. I hadn't looked back. And Lincoln is like 2.8. So those are campus requirements. So if you're not making your campus requirements, it doesn't matter what Misha's saying, because the goal is to graduate high school. So that's why we put that emphasis, to be a student first, then an athlete.
So is that, explain to me, so is that keeping us from being able in certain schools to actually field teams because we don't have enough
No.
students? Okay,
It is not.
okay. Okay, so that's part of the other issue, okay.
Because right now, our 2 biggest schools, if you look at East and Lincoln, East has about, I'm thinking, 1,300 kids. Well, for soccer, we had 49 young people playing soccer. We were down in cross country this year. We usually have about 30. We were down to 22. But let's use Northeast. Northeast's numbers were smaller. So this year, they had 22 for a soccer team. They had 39 for football. Last year, Northeast got so low in numbers for football that they couldn't even participate in districts. They got down to 10 kids. And out of the 10 kids, 2 of them were hurt. So we had to forfeit. So the size of our high schools limit the opportunities that happen.
So it's not a combination of the things, size of high school plus combo grades, kids who can
It's
play.
all those
Okay,
all those
that's
kinds
what
of things. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Abarca?
You made one of my dreams come true. Like if we had a true windfall in some way, I would ask you and Dr. Bedell to open our schools every Saturday to the community, because in my community alone, for kids, not just elementary but high school, there's a limited amount of things that they can do, and that creates challenges for them long term, right? So this idea and concept of this Saturday, or if we get to an after school expanded or whatever, in your collaboration with Parks and Recreation, that's very inspiring, and I look forward to hearing about that, because if we were able to turn every school building that we currently operate into a mini community center, there's tremendous opportunity there, I think, for our kids, and that's exciting.
Yeah, let me answer that one. That is something that I am working on. We do it right now at Central on different Saturdays, and it's an absolute hit. This past Saturday, we saw students from Lincoln playing basketball with students from Central, and after we all finished playing, you know, the kids are just sitting around talking, and yeah, I mean, it's just real cool. The volleyball nets are up. So we've had different students come from different schools to do volleyball. The central coach was nice enough to allow kids from other high schools to practice with the central girls. The kids who want to come in and work on triple jump or work on their track. I mean, the gym is open, and so what we have to do is kind of figure out there's a cost around a stipend because you need to pay somebody that will be able to manage. And so it's a couple of things. It costs for security because they have to get checked in. The administrators will usually volunteer to come to the school. So like over at Central, usually Mr. Madry or one of his assistant principals are there every Saturday. But it does cost to have an adult that would manage it. And even at Central, if we want to then have somebody use the weight room, that's going to cost money. They have a beautiful weight room, but you're going to need to have another adult in there. So we hadn't even gotten that far to it. But yeah, that's my vision over time, is to really figure out how we can open up these buildings on Saturdays from maybe 10 to 1 and just allow for the community to come in, because alumni show up. They are in there playing. It's a ball. It's really cool.
One other thing, for you folks that don't, this is our associate district AD. This is Mrs. Doyle. And one thing that we didn't put a slide in, but Mrs. Doyle has been very involved with some of our young ladies programs, and I wanted to just take a few minutes to tell you some about them.
Well, Dr. Bedell, I just want to say you did hit the nail on the head when you talk about opening the buildings up on Saturdays. Is that right now, elementary, it's all volunteer-based. So we're having to do a lot of promoting, a lot of flyers, a lot of, please come help us, let's build our programs. But it's all voluntary-based, working from our current operating budget. What I did want to extend, talking about Saturdays and where we want to be in the future, is that we just received, or in the process of receiving it, it's called a YES grant. It's Youth Engagement and Sports, and that's in conjunction with UMKC and Parks and Recreation. And we're still building it and what do we want it to look like, but it's a focus on middle school, girls in particular, and not just sports, but as we talk about other activities as well. So, and that's a 2-year grant with a 3rd-year option.
As should be the case.
Questions down here? Dr. Jones, go ahead.
It's a very basic question. What can we as a board do besides, thinking about this next time the budget comes around? What is the best way for us to show support to the athletics?
I can tell you one thing, and one thing only. Getting people in the stands. When we go to other places and our young people have 1 or 2 people and the other stands are full of that other team, our kids need to be loved. And that's what athletics is about. That's what our mentoring is about with Dr. Davis. We're all under the same umbrella because our job is to love our kids. And it's nothing neater than seeing people wearing your school colors and loving up on you and cheering for you. And when we opened up Lincoln here a couple weeks ago and we saw everyone, what a tremendous opportunity. Well, let me also, right now, I don't know if we've won or not, East is playing another school for winning going on further in soccer. Don't forget, Friday night, Lincoln is playing Excelsior Springs for that. And we also have 3 cross-country runners that are participating in state this weekend. Money is always helpful. Don't get me wrong. We all need money. But money goes away and a hug stays with you forever. And that's what athletics, activities, and mentoring is all about. Our first and utmost is to love upon our kids.
All right, I just want to say this as, I don't know if there's other questions, but I did want to say this to kind of close out. Just thinking about the last year playoffs and having the Lincoln girls go to compete for the state championship, and then injuries killed us. I mean, I knew we weren't winning that game after our last star went down. But we got there. Last year, Southeast High School barely lost to Grandview. They gave them a fight. Grandview went down into Springfield, and they blew everybody out and won the state title. Lincoln right now, those kids, most of these kids who are being recruited by these Division I colleges, they've been playing on varsity since they were freshmen. Most of them are juniors. They still got another year. Every single game right now in the playoffs go through Lincoln. Every team has to travel here. And so as long as we win out, then the next time we travel is when we go to state. Is
Heading
that
towards
correct?
state. There's one game prior to that we'd have to go to before state.
Okay.
But everything
is
else
that a regional game?
Yes.
Or- okay.
Semifinals.
Semifinal. So we would have to travel, but we have this game, and would there be one more after this?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, you know, to be able to be at home and not to travel, I like this feeling. So I think what we're trying to do with this pipeline, and y'all know I'm competitive. I'm an athlete. I still think I got it. But ultimately, okay. So I want to thank you for what you all are doing, and you know, just let you know I'm appreciative
Well,
of seeing
I'd like
the
to
growth.
introduce Tom Lewandowski. Tom is doing our scheduling now, and it was made a tremendous amount because now we're able to get to places on time and people know where our games are. And if East wins tonight and they win Tuesday, then they would also host a home soccer game before they head off to state. So we don't know. The game started at 6:30. We don't have the results yet. So thank you so much. Thank you for your support. Let's see you at the game, and go KCPS.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. The next item of business is the report of regular business items.
Yeah, so we have two items that we'll ask the board to take action on in 2 weeks. Renewal of the WHC, basically an alternative transportation contract in the amount of $2 million, and then the the VOCA grant, Victims of Crime Association grant, which is valued at around $2.6 million.
Great, thank you. This was a tremendous meeting tonight. This brings us to the conclusion of our agenda for this evening. Just a final note, welcome to Kelly Wachel. Well, I'll get it. Wachel. Welcome to Kansas City Public Schools. We are thrilled to have you. And I want to just thank our visitors from Rockhurst High School who came here this evening to observe as part of their high school government class. So thank you for coming to KCPS tonight. The meeting's adjourned.